Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Flying solo as of the moment. We'll have Jacob, I believe, joining us here shortly. Looks like for whatever reason we did not go live on X. Uh-oh. As you guys know, X has been quite the arena today. Let's see if we can go live here real quick. And 3, 2, 1, no, an error occurred. So we'll see if we can get up and running on X. I know we got the YouTube crew in here. We got Facebook. We've got Rumble as well. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome day out there as we are closing in on mandatory minicamp. I know OTAs, things like that's been going on. We had some news with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to hit on briefly on Aaron Rodgers. But the reason we want to hit on it is because it does kind of apply to our schedule this year as they're set to visit Pittsburgh. We'll get everybody's take in the chat on that. We're also going to hit on some betting odds. And listen, this isn't to try to give betting advice. This isn't to turn this into a gambling show. It's simply looking at the market and going, all right, how do the sharps, how do the betting folks out there in Vegas and more specifically with Bet ESPN, what are they thinking about the Packers this year? What are they thinking about some of the individual players and where they may or may not hit the over or under? With some of those statistics. So really excited to dive into that as well. We got a question from the Patreon community, and we'll hit a little PFF too in terms of kind of what the Packers added with free agency and what they lost, comparing the rankings according to PFF. You guys know we like PFF here. We don't believe it's the gospel by no stretch of the imagination, but it is a good tool to use. So just shouting out everybody in the chat. Good to see you. Everyone, we got Chris the Casual in the house. United Bates. Daryl, good to see you, buddy. We've got, let's see who else in here. Greg Rice filing in too old for this in the house. Everybody making their way in now. Elijah Gwynn. Appreciate you joining us. Chuck Jaggers, Ed Madden. Hopefully everybody had an awesome day out there. Let's get into it, man. So the big news of the day, obviously, was Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I say big news. This doesn't catch anybody by surprise. It kind of felt like he was going to sign with the Steelers. And I know some people were probably holding out hope that he wouldn't. Others were hoping that he would. I'm not too in tune with the Pittsburgh Steelers community. I've got one buddy who's kind of indifferent on Aaron signing with the Steelers. Yeah, you guys know my brother was a big Steelers fan. It's why I tend to root for them when they're not playing the Packers. So I thought this was kind of cool that I get to continue to root for Aaron Rodgers in every game, but at least one, who knows, possibly two, if they get a Super Bowl rematch. I don't think anybody's going to put any significant money on the chances of that happening with Pittsburgh's current roster. However, Aaron Rodgers lands in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. I want to know what everybody thinks in the chat. Let us know. Are you happy with this? You gonna be rooting for Aaron, or is it going to be something that maybe you're on the other side? You don't necessarily root for Aaron Rodgers anymore, but I know we're all as Packer fans going to be rooting for the Packers to absolutely annihilate them as they are on their schedule this year. Let's go ahead and pop that over now. I know we got Jacob joining us as well. Jacob, we're going to look at the schedule here real quick and kind of see when the Packers do play the Steelers and talk about it a little bit. But I just want to get your initial reaction here to the Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers news. Obviously, no crazy news. We kind of expected it, but it's officially official now, and he will be attending OTAs or mandatory minicamp next week for the Steelers. What do you think, man?
Absolutely. So I'm okay with it. I thought that I might feel a certain type of way, but as the years went on, and as obviously I had the terrible stint with the Jets there, and I was okay with him if he decided that he was going to move on from football, retire, do all that, kind of sail into the sunset. But there is a selfish part of me that still wants to watch him play. I mean, for a good portion of my young adult life, he was my hero. Still owe him a debt of gratitude for everything that he did. Obviously, the Super Bowl. Dude, I cried. I remember crying at my buddy Tony's house when they beat the Steelers, like drunk as a skunk, just happy as all can be. Like I'll never ever forget those moments that he gave to us. So I'm a little bit excited that we get to watch one more year at least. Hopefully, injury barring, that it's fun to see him sling the ball. And again, yeah, it'll be a little different when they're strapping up against the green and gold in whatever capacity, if it's just one game or, like you said, even if it's a second game. But I know it's going to make for good football, good drama, right?
Oh, no doubt about it, man. Neil in the chat said, I'm just glad he didn't sign with the Vikings. And 2-0 for this says, I am now a Steelers fan for the AFC side. That's kind of how I feel about it, too. 2-0 for this. It's going to be fun to root for him over there. And here's the thing. Do I expect him to be vintage Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not, man. I think there's little to no chance that Aaron Rodgers returns to MVP form, this year or ever again. However, I was hearing a conversation on, I think might have been ESPN Milwaukee. I can't remember the name of the show, maybe KBNN or something like that. I don't listen to a whole lot of those shows. I caught that one just on the way home earlier today. And I don't know who the gentleman was that was ranting on it, but he had convinced himself that Aaron Rodgers wasn't as good as Mason Rudolph. And I'm like,
yeah.
What fairy tale world are you living in that you think Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers at this point? So that cracked me up a little bit. And I understand there's going to be people dug in on both sides. Some people hate him just because it's now the cool thing to do, I guess. I always like taking those folks, to be honest with you, that hate on our Aaron Rodgers constantly and just – I've said this before. I like to go back on their Twitter account, Jacob, and just search back and go, okay, when did the hate start? Oh, it happened right around the vaccination status point. Got it. All right. That tells me all I need to know, right? Because I don't care what people do in their own time or how they feel, about themselves medically or politically. I'm here to watch ball, talk ball. And that always cracks me up that the portion just absolutely turned on it around that time. It was really a weird moment for everybody in the country, but it is what it is.
That was honestly one of the first and only times where I really was embarrassed by a certain section of the Packers fandom, just because, like you had said, regardless, I mean, everybody has their own stuff they do in their own personal lives. If it's just crazy to me that somebody that clearly the Packers, if you're a Packer fan, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they were your idols growing up. Like literally they were your heroes. As long as I can remember, that was who mine were. And just in order to turn on them on a dime because of either a political or maybe a current event that they took a stance on, it just drives me insane, dude. But that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. And listen, people have the freedom to feel how they want to feel, That's how I kind of see it at the end of the day, but I'm with you. It was just strange. It was a really weird moment. Like the Brett Favre hate, when he went and played for the Vikings, I get that. And someone else said here in the chat, matter of fact, I can't remember if I marked it or not, but they said, I'm just glad he's not playing for the Vikings. That's how I feel, because it sucks. It sucks to kind of see one of the all-time Packer greats not just go up against your team twice a year. It's like, they're harboring ill will there. And that's what cracks me up about Aaron Rodgers is he's not like that. Like with the Packers, every time you hear him talk in the media, he's defending the Packers. He's talking about how great the Packers organization is. He's talking about how the Packers own the Bears. And you got that weird little small portion of the fan base that wants to try to dunk on him and make him seem like it. And I think the part that bothers me the most is when he returns to Lambeau Field, if they do the same thing they did with Favre and they fill the bowl and have him walk out and they're going to retire his number and this and that, those fans will act like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, yeah, this is great, So, anyway, it is what it is. But with that being said, let's look at the schedule. That was the whole point I wanted to hit on the Aaron Rodgers thing, was to kind of, okay, he's obviously playing for the Steelers. You see we played them in Week 8. We're traveling to Pittsburgh. Jacob, this is going to be Sunday Night Football on NBC, baby. This is going to be absolutely awesome. Pittsburgh's going to be buzzing. I'm hoping that Pittsburgh has a really good record by then. Like maybe they start the season, I don't know what, that'd be Week 8, so maybe they're like 5-3 or something like, or 5-2, something like that. And obviously hoping the Packers get off to a fast start as well. It'd be a lot of fun watching Those two teams go at it. And I think you're going to get the best version, whatever that is, of Aaron Rodgers at 41, 42 years old. Achilles, the Achilles injury there a year and a half ago, however long ago it was. Obviously, it should be fully healed now, but your body doesn't get any better, as the years go on.
Unless you're licking toads in the rainforest, brother. I'm just saying.
Hey, yep. Sipping the ayahuasca tea and licking toads and everything else you need. Not toes, fam. Get your head out of the water. What's wrong with you? With that being said, going into Pittsburgh, I hope the Packers beat the damn brakes off of them, dude. I hope they put him on the ground all night long. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but I just want him to come away from that game going, man, that's the best franchise in NFL history up there. And that's what I want.
Yeah, and obviously as a Packer fan, I agree with that. I do think that there is a better chance than a snowball's chance in hell that the Pittsburgh could actually let's think about it rationally here. Mike Tomlin, while he hasn't wowed anybody, the dude just, at least he wins. It's set in stone. He's going to win at least 8 games, 9 games. He's going to get into the playoffs. And what they do when they get into the playoffs, who knows there. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's washed. You watch his last year, people scoff at it. It's better than most, like he was still a top 15 quarterback, if I believe, in most categories. So not the best, not the worst, but look at what he had around him. The receiving core, if he's got DK, obviously, I saw somebody in the chat that said that Robert Woods was number 2. That's actually not true. Robert Woods is his 4th-string receiver. Calvin Austin's his 2nd string. 3rd string is Roman Wilson. They've got a decent tight end in Freiermuth. They've got 2 good backs in Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. And the defense, it's still in Pittsburgh, always comes to play. There's a chance that if he can sling that tater and they've got a good offensive scheme, maybe that they're actually, by the time we play them, what if they've got like 6 wins? You know what I mean? It could be. I want it to be a better game, and then ultimately, obviously, I want the Packers to be victorious in that game. But I just think it's going to make for great TV, man. That's one that I will not miss. That game, I'll probably be burning our brains, and it's just what good TV, man. How you can't even write that script.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a blast, man. For sure. Somebody here in the chat, they had another comment. Here we go. Elijah Gwynn, going back to 12 or sticking with 8. Now, here's where it gets interesting, Elijah. Terry Bradshaw's number 12 is retired. And you think, oh, man, that'd be cool if Bradshaw gave him his blessing. Bradshaw absolutely hates Aaron Rodgers. He despises him. So keep that in mind. That's definitely a thing over there. Jacob, talk about that for a second and what you've heard on it. You don't have to go into great detail. I'm going to see if I can tweet out a YouTube link because X is not loading up here. I'm going to make sure everybody on X knows that we're live. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's pretty well known that Mr. Terry Bradshaw did not have very glowing things to say about Mr. Aaron Rodgers. And it does stem back to the vaccination stuff and all that. And then I think just the way that Aaron, in Bradshaw's eyes, handled some of the certain, couldn't get a hold of him on the phone type thing. I remember him being Terry Bradshaw being pretty vocal on Fox, on live TV, dragging his name through the dirt quite a bit, almost to the point where I am a little surprised that the organization was willing to take a jump on Rodgers because, Terry Bradshaw is kind of that's like, our Brett Favre type, maybe even older. It's more like our Bart Starr type. You know what I mean? That's royalty there. And the fact that obviously Terry wears 12 and Mr. Rodgers was wearing 12, that makes for just, again, more great drama in the NFL. I would assume that he's going to go back to 8 or stick with 8, however you want to say that. I don't know if Pittsburgh has an 8 that's of any importance or value, but who knows?
Yeah, definitely. All right. So since we get the schedule up, is there anything else you want to hit on the schedule? Again, I think that's a good spot for that Pittsburgh game to be. And I think the Packers have a good shot to go in there and beat them. However, I'm not going to drink that Kool-Aid that I was hearing earlier today that Pittsburgh is a worse team with Aaron Rodgers on as opposed to Mason Rudolph. That blew my mind. I thought these people are truly brainwashed if they think that Aaron is that bad of a quarterback at this stage of his career. So any other games catch your attention here? I know we hit the schedule earlier in the year, but it's kind of cool to let a little time pass and then step back and look again, because that Washington game grabs my attention there on a very special day, September 11th. It's going to be on Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime. At Lambeau, and Washington was one of those up-and-coming teams last year. That grabs my attention early. Those first 2 games are going to be tough, no doubt.
Yeah, it really does, and it does kind of shock me that, coming out of the gate against Detroit, obviously division rival, when Detroit's got a lot of question marks on for themselves, obviously with losing Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, what they have done now with losing their center the other day, that was kind of a shock, right? So there are some situations now that have changed since even the last time we looked at this schedule. And to me, I just am still shocked, one, that we start out the gates with Detroit, and then we go off 4 days of rest right to Washington on a nighttime primetime game.
Oh,
as you said, September 11th, all the meaning in the world for that game. Then you go on your little mini bye and you travel to Cleveland. Well, in theory, we would like to chalk that up as an easy win, but it scares me a little bit. Going on the road to Dallas, it kind of scares me a little bit, especially with the revamp that they've had in their backfield and some of the new talent, like with Pickens that they added. Then that early bye week in week 5 scares me a little bit. Just, having too much rest too soon. We basically have one mini bye, one full bye within the first 5 weeks. It's like, that just seems weird. Cincinnati scares me a little bit. Going on the road to Arizona, I'd like to think that Kyler Murray, that's one of those teams we could hopefully have an easy win, but that's not a gimme. And then obviously we see now how that Pittsburgh matchup has completely re-solidified itself as being a very important game for many reasons. And the rest of the schedule after that just it doesn't seem like there's ever a very easy part of the schedule. You know what I mean? That's what sticks out to me the most is usually you're like, hey, we got a good solid 4 weeks there. But to hear, I mean, in this schedule, I don't ever really feel comfortable for consistent weeks,
Yeah, right. And, going into the Pittsburgh game there in week 8, I could see us being, when you look at, let's just go through it real quick. Let's just talk win-loss, rapid fire, Jacob. Versus Detroit at Lambeau, first week of the season, win or loss?
I think it's a loss, unfortunately.
I'm going to say a win. All right. So you keep up with your record. All right. Washington at Lambeau, I'm going to say that's a loss.
Oh, man, I had it written down somewhere. I don't want to. I kept it too. I think I had that as a win. Okay.
All right. So let me just get my columns here because I want to see what our record would be going into this game here. At Cleveland, win. What about you?
Win.
All right. At Dallas, I'm going to say win. I feel good about the way we play in Dallas.
I think that's true. Win.
All right. Versus the Bengals at Lambeau, I'm going to say that's a win.
I'm going to go loss.
Okay. And then at Arizona, I'm going to chalk that up a loss. Travel, all that good stuff. So
I'm going to go win.
All right. So I've got them going 4-2. Obviously, the bye week is week 5. I've got them 4-2 heading into Pittsburgh. What did you have them at? Same or?
I would have had them at 4-2. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So that's going to be an important game. The reason I wanted to paint that picture for everybody is you're talking about a primetime game, and you're talking about the difference between going 5-2 or 4-3. Kind of a big deal, There's going to be a lot at stake for that game, and I think it's great. You see me grinning because it's like, man, you can already see the buzz building up to that, especially if Pittsburgh gets off to a decent start. Now, if they come into this game and they've only won one game, not going to have near as much luster, right? However, if they come in and they're sitting around the same record, 4-2 or whatever, 5-1, whatever it may be, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the buzz created up to kickoff there. So, again, look for that in week 8. Anything else on the Aaron Rodgers signing and obviously us playing them in week 8, Jake?
No. Yeah, I just hope that most Packer fans take it for what it is, which is, saying goodbye to, like I said, an all-time great and be respectful. Like, I'd hate for Packer fans to be just painted with an ugly brush that way. Just be respectful.
Yeah.
Unless we lose.
Yeah. I get aggravated when a portion of the fan base embarrasses us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
That's the stuff that bothers me is, like I didn't get embarrassed that they booed Favre. I thought he deserved it. He playing for the division rival. You know what I mean? It's fair game. I got embarrassed when Aaron Rodgers got death threats and people threatened to break his legs because they wanted Favre as their quarterback. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So that's the main thing is just, as Aaron once coined the phrase, many people don't know that. Everybody loves to say, carry the G. Aaron Rodgers was the first person to say that. And it's funny that people use that phrase and then they bash him. But that's a story for a different day. So Chuck Jagger says 5-1 going into that game. Got it. Solder, man, I hope you are correct. 6-0 going into the Berg would be absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. He said 7-0 leaving the Berg. Jake, if we get off to a 7-0 start, got something special going on here.
I mean, yeah.
The toughest part of the schedule seems to be in the first half, don't you think?
Yeah, I get more nervous with that backstretch for sure. If we were 7-0, that to me is an amazing accomplishment. That I think that it's not a guarantee, but I think we probably roll into the playoffs with a pretty good head of steam.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so there you go. A little schedule update. I love looking at that schedule after a little bit of time passes by, man, for sure. Let's now dive into. Let me see what we had on tap here, real quick. All right, we get the betting odds. Let's get into this PFF breakdown real quick. Shouldn't take long, Jacob, but I thought this was interesting. They've got an off-season page here on PFF's website for the Packers, and it just shows you a quick glance at who they lost in free agency, the bigger names, and who they picked up. So obviously, moving on from, or the players that they lost in free agency was Eric Stokes, cornerback, right? Josh Myers, center, and TJ Slayton, defensive line. Now, keep in mind, these rankings are the PFF free agency rankings. So it's not necessarily anything to do with EPA or advanced metrics. It's just simply this is how PFF's seen them, okay? And it's not even really about the PFF grades either. It's someone put this together in their ranking system for their free agents, and this is how they had them. So they had Eric Stokes as the 188th PFF free agent ranking. Josh Myers was sitting at 129. TJ Slayton was sitting at 201. And then if you look at the additions, Aaron Banks, the guard picked up there from the San Francisco 49ers in free agency, they had him ranked the 72nd best PFF free agent. Mecole Hardman was ranked 114. That's wide receiver out of Kansas City, obviously. And then cornerback Nate Hobbs was ranked 85th. So when you look at what we lost here, and we'll try to compare apples to apples as much as we can. Like, let's compare Nate Hobbs and Eric Stokes. Obviously, they play the same position. So you let walk in free agency, according to PFF, the 188th ranked free agent, and you picked up the 85th rank. Pretty nice little improvement there. And the thing about Nate Hobbs, if you look at the PFF grades recently, not so good. But, man, his rookie year balled out. Guess who his head coach was that year? Rich Bisaccia. So keep that in mind. Maybe it's something that Bisaccia put in a little word and they looked at the tape. This guy attacks the football. I love how he adds a little bit of extra defense in the running game. Really, really like what he brings to the table. Now, when you look at offensive lineman wise, let's kind of compare somewhat apples to apples. You're picking up the 72nd best free agent, according to PFF, in Aaron Banks, and you lost the 129th. So once again, another pretty large net gain there. And then, of course, you got two positions that don't correlate. You lost TJ Slayton, which PFF had him ranked 201. I would have put him higher than that. You guys know I was a little higher on TJ Slayton than most Packer fans. However, Mecole Hardman, wide receiver you pick up, speedy guy, can return kicks, can be a little bit of a gadget player. For some reason, Jaden Reed gets banged up. You've got someone with world-class speed, Mecole Hardman, to jump in there. He was the 114th ranked free agent. So if you wanted to compare the third player that was dropped and the third player that was added, you got another huge net gain there. According to PFF, Jacob, we improved this team in free agency in terms of who we picked up and who we lost, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's worth realizing that even though sometimes, like, if you read most of the headlines, a lot of the beat writers, a lot of the clickbaity stuff, Packers didn't do anything in free agency. They, overpaid this, overpaid that, didn't spend enough money, didn't go out and get guys. Well, sometimes it's the quiet moves that build that floor in the back half of your roster or just in certain key positions that really make the difference. And as you said there, I wasn't a massive fan of the Bank signing, I'll be honest, but when you compare that, again, to what goes in, what comes out, we're kicking out of Josh Myers, similar age, range there, but you exchange one for 72nd overall rank for 129, like you said with Mecole, like you did with Nate Hobbs, exponentially quite better. The Hobbs for Stokes pick, you're going up 100 ranking points, you know what I mean, just in free agency. So, and you're going down slightly in age. So to me, those are some quieter moves that didn't, again, flash in the pan. They weren't, clickbaity. Nobody was wowed and, oh my God, you guys signed Mecole Hardman. Cool. But they did make our team better. And that's all you can ask of from a front office going into a year where we didn't have a lot of holes on this team. We just, again, needed to find the right players to fill those small areas of need. I think we did a better job than most people give us credit for.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the chat, see what everybody's saying in here. Deadfish says Slayton is the one I wish we still had. I somewhat agree, Deadfish. For the right price, my number was $5 million. I would have been willing to pay.
You got too much money.
Yeah, once he cracked 7, I was like, you know what? It's just I can't justify that. But he was better at rushing the passer than most people believe he was. If you look at the pressure percentage in terms of NFL Pro and actually go watch the tape and look at those specific snaps where he did, you can confirm he got pressure on the quarterback. A little bit better at pass rush than I expected him. I'm not saying he was a dominant run defender. Everyone thinks because he's so big, oh, yeah, that's what he does really, really well. I felt like he was probably a little bit better at rushing the passer in terms of the tape as opposed to playing the run.
I think a fair summarization of him, and I can't remember who said it, but they're like, he's quite a bit better than I would have ever expected at stopping at rushing the passer, and quite a little bit worse than I would have expected at stopping the run. And it's like, all right, well.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I was trying to pull up the Packers pressure percentage real quick. I don't want to misquote, but I'm almost positive that was what we came up with when we did that deep dive. So if we go to all the players, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'll just kind of give you guys the rundown here. This is all the positions. So let's find the interior defensive lineman. All right, going down the line here. The first one was Devontae Wyatt at 9.7%. And then second was TJ Slayton at 8.8%. So, yeah, Jacob, he was right there. I mean, less than 1% pressure rate behind Devontae Wyatt in terms of what the GPS tracking shows. So, if you look at it from that standpoint, if you're high on Devontae Wyatt, then we know Devontae Wyatt run defense was not his strength, although he did get better last year from the year before, in my opinion. It looked like his run stop rate went up. But TJ Slayton was right on his heels. The next would be Kenny Clark, who came in at 6.8%. So that's a pretty significant drop off. As much as I love our Carl Brookses on the team, his was at 6.4%. But many people don't understand too that Carl Brooks played a lot of nose last year. That surprised me. It seemed like more times than not you turn on the tape and he was actually playing a 1 tech as opposed to a 3 or a 4 eye. So yeah. Moving along.
Hey, Emilio, how are you?
How many times are you going to come to my press conference late?
He's been waiting all night to hit that on you, Emilio.
I'm good, Jacob. How are you?
Fun. It's nervous hitting those buttons without Tim here,
I know. Tell me about it.
Holmes in the chat says, talking about Mecole Hardman, he says Bo is faster. All right. Probably straight line speed. I would agree with that. I don't know what the 40 times were exactly. Greg Rice says, I think Bo is on the bubble. I completely agree, Greg. It sucks because Bo Melton is one of those dudes I really like on this team. But I'm picking Malik Heath over Bo Melton. That's just me personally. A couple different facets in the game. He's got better hands, got a better contested catch rate. He also blocks better than Bo. Not that Bo's not willing, but Malik Heath's a dog in the blocking game, in my opinion. There's just a little bit more to work with there with Malik Heath. When you look at the EPA and some of the advanced metrics, he was hands down way better than Bo. Bo took a pretty big step back. How do you guys feel about that? You think Bo Melton is on the bubble here? Like, I'll pull
cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
Yeah, like if we were to carry 6, let's say they're going to carry 6 like they have in the past. You're going to go Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, right? Savion Williams, Dontavion Wicks. You're already at 5. So now you got to decide, is it going to be Malik Heath, Mecole Hardman, or Bo Melton? You have to choose between those 3. Once again, Malik Heath, Mecole Hardman, or Bo Melton. Which one of those 3 are you keeping on your roster, Jake?
Malik Heath, hands down. Just like you said, he's one of those guys, kind of like some of the backup running backs that I highlighted in a previous episode, where they just do everything right. And for just the fact that they were a UDFA and you got a lot of draft capital on a lot of guys you spent some serious money on that are ahead of him in the depth chart, and barring an injury or some crazy situation, it's probably just not going to get him on the field as much. But dude, the guy's size, his speed, the way that, like you said, he can pinpoint a ball, bring it down, physical guy, willing to block dudes into the freaking water cooler. And he's got that jabber jaw, which I like because he backs it up. I think that he is a spark plug. And in key situations, if you remember, he scored touchdowns and first downs for us that were pretty impressive. They weren't just gimmies. Like, I'm talking him separating, getting control of that ball and kind of being violent. I liked what he did. He does everything. He blocks violently. He runs routes aggressively. He does the yak. I mean, I really just love him as a player, and I think that on any other team, he could be easily a wide receiver 3, if not higher.
Yeah. What do you think? Which one of those 3 you choosing, man?
Tough agreeing with Jacob, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with these 2. I think it's not that I don't like McCall. It's just that I get the return aspect of it, having that other option in there. But I just don't think that, bringing in a guy from KC, I love that, he's got that experience. We'll get a little bit of veteran, presence from him. But I think Heath just knows a little bit more of this offense, kind of knows where to be on everything. And I think that it would just work out a little bit better if we had Malik in here that knew what was going on.
Yeah, makes sense for sure. Let's see here what everybody said. Ed Madden in the chat says, I could see Hardman making it as a returner in depth. Completely agree. There's a little bit more value there than with Bo, as Daryl pointed out. Haven't seen Melton return kicks before. Let me tell you something. On Madden, he's a dog in the return game. But in real life, for whatever reason, it just has not worked out. I don't know if there's got to be something they've seen in practice. They're like, yeah, this ain't for him. I don't know. Maybe it's securing the key. That's a lot more difficult than people realize. When you get out there and you think, okay, well, he could catch a football. He's a receiver. He should be able to catch a kick. No, it's a whole different ballgame returning a kick. And it takes a special kind of person, special in a crazy way, to stare straight up in the air while you've got world-class athletes full sprint coming to take your head off. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what it is with Bo. I don't know. But Mecole Hardman definitely has that in him, that ability. As H.E. Solder said, too, Hardman is shiftier than Melton. There's no 2 ways about that. Melton, just straight line speed, right? Hardman has definitely got that ability to jump around. We haven't talked about Hardman much, man.
No. Like Coach was saying here, though, Bo plays gunner on special teams, which is a big thing. On punt team, the guy running down the field to the screamer to go after the man. I think that's key. That's something that's you're going to make the team based on special teams at that point when you're that far down the line. I
think Coach Lynn just found the one thing that Bo Melton is more valuable to the team than Malik Heath, right? Because Malik Heath doesn't have that kind of speed. That's a great pull there, Coach. Didn't think about that.
Can anybody in the chat bring up Malik Heath's speed? Because I don't think he was like I just don't know if he's a 4.5 guy, if he's higher, lower.
Let me fire up the old Google machine here. Malik Heath, right? 40. 4.64.
Dang. Okay, so he is kind of a that's what Coach said.
Yeah, 6'2",
confirmed.
213 pounds, 4.640. So yeah. Again, and you think, okay, why do you want him as a receiver if he's that slow? Speed isn't everything at playing receiver, And again, those contested catches, that win rate, that EPA per target, all those things that I think he might have led the Packers in EPA per target last year. If I remember.
Is it an oxymoron for a guy to be a 4.64 but still be a possession receiver, or does that match a little more than it might not sound like? You know what I'm saying? Like, you think of a possession receiver. Do they have to have blazing speed, or do they just have to be violent, like you said, with contesting catches? Decent route running, yak.
Yeah.
Like,
when I think of a possession receiver, I think you got to be able to play in the phone booth. I think of a boundary rat, like someone that on the short side of the field. You got to be able to win those isolation one-on-one matchups, and you're going to be catching the football in traffic. So you got to have strong hands. That's what I think of with a possession.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Bingo. That's a perfect ball right there. I remember Anthony Johnson back in the day. Now Anthony Johnson. Drop off a little bit, but you get him in a contested catch situation, he's coming away with that football.
You get him in the phone.
Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. Now Calvin was just the thing about Calvin, Jacob. Yeah, that guy. What was it? 4.2 40 speed, if I remember correctly. It was either 4.2 or 4.3.
Like 220.
Yeah, he's built like a tight end, but runs like freaking Mecole Hardman, real. I think name a fast receiver. Maybe not quite Tyreek Hill speed, but he definitely had the stride length over Tyreek Hill. There's no doubt about that. This is NFL Pro, and I wanted to just make sure here. Let's see receiving EPA. Get you over here. So that's not pulling up the advanced metrics here. Let me go to Explore more. Hopefully it don't. And it did. It reset. No, we're okay. We're good. I want to see receiving or EPA per target. Here we go. EPA per target. Malik Heath, look at him leading the way. That's what I was talking about. It's like, and again, he only got 13 targets, so that is a minute amount. However, he ran 62 routes. His catch rate over expected, another one. Look at that, plus 9.7%, right? By the way, look at Ben Sims at a plus 15.8%. So I love looking at just all the different angles and kind of seeing, okay, where do these guys, lie at in comparison? Jaden Reed, his EPA per target was second best on the team at a plus 0.50. So understand, guys, when you hear the drops, this makes sense. When you see a statistic like that, EPA per target being that high, and then you see his drop rate higher, you guys say, okay, let's look at the drops. Lo and behold, we go and watch those only 5 incompletions out of 20 targets. I'm talking Jaden Reed here. 20 targets in the last however many 5 games of the season. Only 5 of them fell incomplete, one of which he fell down, and there's one that could have been considered a drop, and he had to lay out full extension to try to catch the football. If these people that are trying to fudge the numbers to prove a point or argument because they were emotionally unstable during the season and wanted to act like Jaden Reed was a horrible football player, that's how you do that. Is, I'm going to count that as a drop. Nobody's going to check me. Nobody's going to go watch the tape. It's so few people that actually go watch the tape. Now listen, it's like people that attended the Ice Bowl, Lambeau Field, how many did it hold back then? I don't even know. It was probably less than 50,000, I'd imagine. I've heard 2.6 million people say they were at the Ice Bowl, right? It's amazing how many people say they watch tape. I went and watched the tape. Well, the tape suggests, and you never see them do a film breakdown. You never see them show, here's what I'm seeing, and give their opinion in that regard. And if you don't want to watch film, it's cool, but, stop peeing on my leg and telling me it's raining. So Jaden Reed, again, I think he's going to blow up this year. Tucker Kraft here too, boys, plus 0.47. So
what kind of pops off the screen a little bit there is the deep throw percentage. Obviously, you think, Watson's number one, right? 34%. It's Bo Melton actually was at 35.3, and then there's quite a steep drop off. So that is kind of another area where you could probably chalk it up that Bo has over Malik, is just that being able to take the top off the defense and have guys run with them.
And again, when you look at Malik Heath, 7.7% on deep percentage, that shows you what we're talking about, kind of playing underneath in the phone booth type right. thing. That's what he does well. And
which I think Golden might be able to slide into some of that role. If Bo's not going to be it while Christian's out, I think that, that could be Golden's wheelhouse as well.
Right. Let's say Bo doesn't make the roster. Christian's out till November. Hopefully he comes back in October, but I would think it's fair to say probably would be November. Who takes those deep routes, guys? Who cracks the 25% mark? It's going to be Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
And I'm so freaking excited about it, man. It's going to be a blast to watch. So, any other stats y'all want to see here while we're on NFL Pro in terms of receiving or any other position, anything that ever comes to mind? But hey, I'd really like to know where this person ranks in this regard. Anything at all? We good?
I think we're good. Right. The only thing I was wondering was how often did teams have their quote unquote number one receiver returning punts and stuff? So if we're gonna have Jaden Reed back there on punt return, how often are teams running their number one? Not we have that solid number one, but Jaden Reed is right now our most important receiver. Are we going to keep him back there all season returning those?
I don't want Jaden Reed returning kicks at all, man. And again, so this is where you hit timeout and go, we're just stupid fans, right? What does Goody think? Well, Goody's not going to tell you exactly what he thinks. So it's just like we always say, you want to know where someone's priorities lie, look at their checkbook and their calendar. Where did he make signings? Savion Williams, people were saying that could be a special teams player, a return guy, right? He signed Mecole Hardman. That's a kick returner, right? You still got Keyshawn Nixon as well. However, I think we put that to bed now. Keyshawn's on board with returning kicks again. I think he was just I think it was more about him feeling like he let the team down at the end of the year. Like, I'm done with this because, could you imagine what that would feel like? Everybody's all hyped up. You're going in. You really feel like you can beat Philadelphia. And if you don't fumble that opening kickoff, I'm not trying to throw Keyshawn under the bus. That's a different ball game.
Yeah. You don't go down 0-7 on your first possession.
Yeah. So imagine what it was like for Keyshawn Nixon to go to that sideline and have to look at his teammates. And then to know at the end of the game, damn it, that one screw. And here's the thing. yes, he was being careless. Yes, it was a mental error. But at the same time, that's how Keyshawn returns kicks. Like, he's fearless. He's just head down, hit the hole. I don't care if I'm going to get blasted or not. He's kind of fearless on returns. And that day it bit us in the rear end, albeit, believe me,
penalty.
I know old dude led with the crown of the helmet and Keyshawn recovered the fumble, but still pissed.
God, dude, what?
Why did we bring this up?
Why do we even bring that up?
Well, I brought it up because I wanted Jacob to get upset. But the fact is like Keyshawn is on defense too. So as a punt returner, you're obviously thinking that if you've been on defense for a while, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plays, but you get the stop, they're only at midfield, they got to kick it. You probably want a offensive guy taking those kicks. So I do get why they want Jaden Reed out there. For kickoffs, if maybe there was a long drive and they scored, do you want Keyshawn returning that? I don't know. But I do think that we're looking at a receiver that could be our punt returner. It's not like unless Marshawn Lloyd's going back there or something like that, it's got to be a receiver that we want to be able to bank on as a returner, and then we can sprinkle in Key would be my thought.
Completely agree there. Coach Lynn also said Malik Heath might be our only power forward top wide receiver on this roster if you think in basketball terms. I can't think of another player receiver-wise on this roster.
Savion, maybe.
Yeah.
Just with his size. Yeah.
Alan Lazard is what you're saying? We want another Alan Lazard?
Hey, listen, Alan Lazard catches a lot of heat, a lot of hell. For what we paid him, I mean, I would love to see his AV, that value that we got out of him in terms of what we actually paid him. That dude, he was our wide receiver one when Tay wasn't available.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And listen, as much as I point out, and I will continue to point out, we lost that game against the Niners because we had a punt block for a return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Alan Lazard was running butt naked through the trailer park when Aaron Rodgers forced it to Tay Adams in double coverage, right?
I feel like Alan Lazard on your football team is like having a Nickelback or a Creed CD on a really long road trip. It's like you wouldn't pick it, but once you're on that trip, man, you're glad you just got something to listen to. You know what I mean? So Lazard, I think he's still in New York, right? I think they got him like on the depth chart.
He's probably going to be on the Steelers shortly.
Well,
you got that right. No, he's still with the Jets. Lazard is. So
I think they got him at number 2 next to Garrett Wilson on that depth chart. So
again, I don't think he's a bad receiver. No. I think Aaron probably seen a little more in him than everyone else did.
I think that what he did was that Aaron knew exactly where he was going to be on every play, and that earned more respect than being a 4-2 type guy. You know what I mean? He knew exactly that when I call play, Alan Lazard's going to be where I expect Alan Lazard to be.
I'll never forget too. I think it was against was it Miami, where they threw a quick bubble screen and he came over and blocked 3 guys. And when I say blocked 3 guys, he put three grown men on their ass. It was
and then he
counts on his hand.
I looked at him like 2.
Yeah, 3? It was Miami. Definitely.
That's when I was like, all right, I'm a Alan Lazard stan from here on out. So, all right, anything else on that, boys? We good?
I think we're good.
All right, good deal. United Bates, March 17th, 2023, Lazard signed a 4-year, $44 million contract with the Jets. There you go. So they got him at least. That's one of those, a 4-year deal is really a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal in some cases, right? So this will probably be his last year in New York, but nonetheless, hey, he got the bag, didn't he? You're going to need that living up there with those taxes.
Seriously.
You know anything about that, Emilio? Those New York and New Jersey taxes?
He doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah, no bueno. No bueno.
For those of you who don't know, Emilio is originally from where, Emilio? Give him your home address.
Upstate New York.
Okay.
So I wasn't down in the city.
I thought he was going to say Mexico.
I had a buddy that lived up east of Buffalo, and he was like, Clayton, he said, it's more country up here than probably is.
It pretty much looks like where we live now. You know what I mean? It just, you don't have the big mountains in the background.
Yeah.
Chuck says Lazard is like a sandwich with no mayo. Hey, at least you got a sandwich. That's good. Really, I like that. That's good.
I got to hit you with one of these, though, Chuck. Come on, man. All right. That's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We're going to get on the betting odds and kind of see where people are projecting the Packers and Packers players to finish in the upcoming season. We appreciate y'all.